Therapy dudes, take away your stress, put you in a good mood. If you had them over, they would eat up all your food. It's time for therapy dudes.
Hey, this is Dan Fox and Andre Karkamas. We are Therapy Dudes. We are sponsored by Boulder Psychological Services. Check out boulderpsychologicalservices.com for the chance to get a ton of therapeutic resources as well as check out therapists in the area that can support your needs.
Yeah.
So we are here with part two of our discussion on New Year's resolutions, goal setting, and we're going to dig into in this session our own personal resolutions in more detail. Andre, you started us off last time with a desire to cut out sugar, eat
Yeah.
better,
No
and
fast food, no sugar, no processed sugar or fast food or anything like that.
nice, no
Yeah.
processed sugar, fast food. And as I remember you mentioning, it has gotten tricky. You are on day 7 now, and it's no fun anymore.
No, it's not fun. Uh, the problem with New Year's resolutions is you start going through it and you think you're like really strong and can do it, because it's only been like 10 hours. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, maybe I'll cheat today. Like it's just a little piece of cookie. It's like a little piece of chocolate or whatever, right? And those little habits that we revert back into, that's what ends up erasing our New Year's resolution goals. I'm not
So,
there yet.
right, we talked about some strategies the last time about ways to campaign against this kind of pushback from our lizard brain and how to kind of bring up to the surface some of the original motivation, thoughts, and feelings
Yeah.
behind the resolution. Have you been doing that? If so, what have you been doing? How's it been working out?
Well, I'm noticing the cravings, right? Like I'm noticing what my mind immediately goes to. It's like the habits that I'm used to doing from day to day, my body's almost wanting to subconsciously do it without me knowing. Like I'm just getting up and I'm going and looking at the cabinet. So I'm like, why am I doing this? Like,
Yes.
what is it that I'm looking for? You know? And I catch those moments and I ask myself, like, okay, like, even if I did find chocolate, am I going to eat it? Like, no, I'm not. And I kind of just have this discussion. I'm like, well, what's something? It's always a compromise. I start to compromise with that part of me. Like, okay, I'll drink a glass of milk instead. You know, like
Yes.
I don't drink glasses of milk. So when I do that instead, it's like it could be. I mean, some people like drinking glasses of milk. I really don't. So it could be like a punishment for feeling this way. so so it's kind of it's interesting. It's kind of working and it's satiating my feeling of like needing to consume something. But when you're replacing behaviors and habits and patterns, you don't replace it with nothing. You have to replace it with something else.
Yes. So, are there other things beyond a glass of milk that might be?
That's all I got for you. Um,
No, this is
well,
for you. This is your own personal journey. What do you think might work for you?
I think like a lot of people in life, I really want to change certain things in my life. I'm very unhappy about certain things in my life. And because I know that what I'm doing, like sometimes on a health level, isn't working, um, I know that these are changes I want to make. So I just keep reminding myself, like, okay, this doesn't feel great right now, but what is it that like what is my goal? I have to keep reminding myself, what is my goal here? Why is this my goal? What does the future hold? Okay, I have a daughter. I want to make sure that I live long for her, like I want to play basketball. I don't want to be like unhealthy for that because as we get older it's a little hard. Um and I mean it's like really hard for you because you're very old. But
Yeah,
for
I
me,
can't
I'm like
imagine it being
almost
hard for you yet. You're spring chicken.
yeah. Well, thank you. It's hard. It's hard, in your mid 30s, playing basketball is rough. And I know that diet has a lot to do with recovery type stuff for the body, and nutrition is really important. And I just can't be fueling myself with crap anymore or processed foods. Um, Also, I want to lose, like 10 pounds, it'd be easier on the knees, jumping around with 10 pounds lighter body weight. But just connecting it to actual tangible reasons, right? Connecting this goal. And then all of a sudden, when I'm looking at that little piece of chocolate, he's the devil. Like, because once I give into that little piece of chocolate, that's it. Like, that's the seed of like, this is okay, you know? And
Yeah.
it goes with like working out, like saying I'm going to skip one morning because out of the four I said I'm going to do every week because, I'm tired. Well, yeah, that's not a good reason, right? Like I'm cheating myself out of my own goal. And I have to rephrase it like that, reframe everything like this so I can see what's going on in real time because you have to be intentional if you're going to change a goal. If you're going to change any behavior in life, you can't just half-ass it. That is not how life works.
Yeah. And I think we need to especially be intentional in those moments where there's this kind of struggle and we're about to sort of break our resolution because our willpower is temporarily week. I know for myself, and and I have a similar goal. We've kind of have a joint goal of being in our basketball like best conditioned shape, right? And
Right.
that's a combination of diet and exercise. And um, for me, I'm about 10 pounds from where my optimal place would be with playing basketball. And like you, I feel it. I feel it in my ankles, knees, and hips. Um,
Right.
it's
It's real. It's
right.
painful.
It's not cool to be carrying around that extra weight and trying to, move your body the way you want to move it. And my my challenge comes in the evening. My willpower and my eating habits are pretty darn strong up until around 8, 9 o'clock, and
Yeah.
then I'm getting tired. I don't have as much of a that's a time of day where I don't have as much of a sort of like regular schedule routine. I'm just kind of hanging out and I've sort of done all the stuff that I need to do for the day. And I find myself orbiting back to my kitchen, checking out the pantry, looking for sugar, looking for salt, looking for carbs, and doing what you were talking about in terms of making compromises. I'm like, well, I could have a yogurt. I'll do a yogurt and I'll just add some granola to the yogurt. And
Yeah.
the when I'm at my best with these processes, I know what that looks like because in a moment when I'm at my best, I'll be able to kind of get in touch with the sensations in my body. I'm not actually hungry, right? I'm not actually hungry. I'm just in this weird craving energy,
Yeah. What is that? Because I've experienced that too. I'm not really sure what that is. It feels like hunger.
right? I think for me, my lizard brain is used to getting its way in the evening time.
Oh,
So
it's like
it's
a behavior that's reinforced,
yeah, it
which is
just gets on
expected.
point and it's like, hey, this dude's got nothing going on. I like sugar. I like salt. I like oily carb food.
Yeah.
Let's do this. And it knows that those are the kind of payoffs that it can get in the evening, which has nothing to do with hunger as much as the like neurological, dopamine hits that it gets from those kinds of foods. And for for me, even knowing that doesn't right, knowing it cognitively doesn't have a sufficient counteraction to the lizard brain's energy. I'll still be like, forget it. There's some ice cream. I'll just have some. I don't care. Next morning I wake up, I'm like, oh, I cared. Why did I do that? Like it's like clockwork. And if I can really slow down and be intentional, like you were saying, get a glass of water, slowly drink it, then I've got the chance of doing one of the two things that's going to actually, help me get over this hump and get to bed without, shoving something in my mouth that I don't want to, or at least my wizard brain doesn't want to. And
Right.
one of them is making a cup of hot tea. If I
Oh,
make
yeah.
a cup of hot tea,
I thought you were talking about something else.
no, make a cup of hot tea. If I can make a cup of hot tea, it's gonna basically work. Now, how often on a 7-day week do I make a cup of hot tea at night?
Not often.
Not often, less than once a week. If I can do some light exercise at the end of the night, yoga, take my dog for a walk around the block outside, something like that that gets me back into the sensations of my body, that'll work too. Now, I typically will do like 2 minutes of stretching before I lie down into my bed on the little yoga mat next to my bed. But that's not, I need something that's, an actual like session, like 15 minutes. 15 minutes is kind of a necessary and sufficient amount of time to be able to like get my headspace in a different place and kind of, give my lizard brain a little food, so to speak, a little energy that's gonna like make it so it's not craving these like immediate hits of sugar or salt. But that 15-minute session, hard to come by. Again, probably less than once a week. Do I ever regret drinking tea or getting that 15-minute light little like body movement at the end of the night? No, never,
No.
never. So
So what makes it so hard to replicate it if it's something we never regret?
well, I think this comes back to, what we were talking about in the last session in terms of like, increasing that motivation, getting in touch with that mental blueprint, finding those anchors that bring us back to that state of mind. Because I know
Yeah.
when I'm in this kind of like evening space, my willpower is drained, my energy is
Yeah.
drained. My lizard brain's not drained. That thing has chemical drives. If it's like, I want sugar, I'm going
I
to
want
be
to stare at a
digging through
screen
the
for 20
house.
minutes. That's hard
Yeah.
to do, actually, staring at a screen for a long period of time at the end. It's tiring, actually,
Whew.
but
For,
it's fun.
for me, I can do it as I'm going to sleep. I can stare at the screen, but it won't be enough of a distraction from like wanting some sugar or salt. And one of the best things that I can do as part of this campaign is to limit what's in my house because if I can just say no at the grocery store, I don't need to have to say no 50 times at the end of each night as my mind goes back to like the cookies or the ice cream that are in the house. So that's a big part of it is creating a structure when I'm not in the midst of the problem that will actually help deal with the problem later on in the course of the week in those evenings where I'm like kind of losing willpower. But to, and this is going to be, we need to revisit this in, the podcast over the next couple of weeks because as we talked about last time, this is like resolutions and goals often have that shelf life of like, 3 weeks and then it's like totally abandoned and we're like, forget it. I don't even want to do that anymore. And we're trying to really practice and be intentional about having this be a sustainable thing and being accountable to each other and supporting each other and talking about our challenges as we go throughout, these podcasts over the next several
Yeah.
weeks. So there'll be other topics, right, that are the focus of those podcasts. But to to do check-ins about where we're at, I think is going to be pretty significant because,
Listen,
right, we can talk a big game now, but we'll see what happens in the coming weeks. So my specific intention this week, and we'll check it out next week, is to more than once make a cup of tea at night and more than once actually do a 15-minute sort of like body movement thing at the end of the night as alternatives to just raiding the cupboard, right? I wanna try to um, put that in place instead and see if that helps me get, past those urges that are coming up.
just fart smell. just the fake fart smell. Just spray that in a little jar. When you open the cover, just ask yourself with that. Be like, oh yeah, yeah, I don't want anything to do with this. Um,
You're getting back to the smell. I know that's an
yeah.
important thing for you.
Hey man, I don't know if it's because I was like a germaphobe when I was a kid, and any kind of weird smell was like, oh no, I'm not going near that. But this whole topic brings up this idea, this thought process I've been having lately about the concept of discipline in general. Like I've been asking myself lately, am I disciplined? And how do I know if I'm disciplined? Like what are the markers of someone who is disciplined? Because you need to be disciplined to follow through with a life change and a
Yeah.
behavior change like this. But um I was like, well, like I show up for my clients all the time. Does that mean I'm disciplined? I work out at least a couple times a week. Does that count as it? Like what is discipline in the context of a New Year's resolution? And then like I wonder if like most of us are just operating out of this place that like we kind of have to, but we don't want to, you know? Like I want to see my clients, but a lot of my clients have these jobs and they tell me about it. Well, I show up to work, but like I'm miserable. There's no like connection to what they're doing really. They're just doing it because it's the option that they have. I think that that's why we're lucky to be doing the work we're doing because we actually like what we do.
Yes. Yes.
But
Well, and there's something too about our jobs that have these external consequences if we don't show up, right? Other people are counting on us. We're accountable in a different way. If I eat sugar at night, there's no like true external consequence. Nobody's going to be,
not yet, at least.
not
There might
yet.
be down the line,
Good
like
point.
a medical bill.
Right. But that's not tangible enough. That's
Exactly.
even my own little situation with a 7 millimeter kidney stone that is currently inhabiting one of my kidneys, where I'm going to have
You
to get
poor guy.
surgery, was
Oh,
great
jeez.
for like a week in terms of perfect diet. But now I'm like 5, 6 weeks in, and I'm still 4 weeks out from the
Right.
surgery.
Hmm.
And I'm doing some of those dietary changes that I started off with, but I'm nowhere near where I was that first week. Salt is definitely back in the equation. Sugar's definitely back in the equation.
But you
And
know what, man? I will go with you. I will hold your hand. We will scream together as you get this kidney stone passed. I'll be there for you. Don't you worry.
I'm going to spare you that suffering if I can. You're my
Okay.
work wife, but my wife will probably be with me, and I hope to be knocked out when that happens.
I hope you're not
We'll
tough.
see. But you're right. Like even with that looming consequence of eating too much salt over time, which is one of the big things that contributes. Also, just not drinking enough water. I think that was a mistake, and I ate too much protein. But even
Well,
no,
also being like super old, you know?
yes, being super old, right? But I mean, what's the alternative to that? I'd rather be super old than not be. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
gonna make the best of
Yeah.
it. Um,
Yes. Yes. I won't count that then. You're right.
so let's revisit this in a week, and we'll see where I am with tea drinking and getting a little bit more exercise in the evening, and whether or not that has a beneficial effect. Do you have specifics that you want to check in about and be sort of held accountable for?
It's just like if I'm able to maintain a distance from processed foods. And
Processed foods.
mainly like, are you having things like I'm looking at all the packaging. Do you know how like shockingly surprising it is that um there's sugar in just about everything? Like everything.
Yeah.
Like cane sugar is in everything. Brown rice syrup, all this stuff, everything. I thought I was like gonna buy some Cheerios the other day, and I looked and there's like a ton of sugar in it. And I was like, really? It doesn't taste like there's sugar in it.
Yeah, no, you just got to make oatmeal for yourself in the morning, plain oatmeal. Um, but as a side note, maintaining a distance from processed foods gives you a little wiggle room. The devil's in the details. I want something measurable that we can, check in on, and it's going to be either a clear yes or a clear no, and not a like, yeah, I think
Have
I.
you gotten your sugar from honey or fruit?
Okay.
That would be that would be a fair measurement for me.
Okay. And avoided anything that has added sugar.
Yes, like today when we were all eating at the Indian buffet, um, you got that honey chicken, man, and I saw that and I wanted it. You know that
Right.
breaded honey chicken, but I know that that's not honey that they use for that. There's definitely sugar
Oh,
in it.
there's
So
honey, but yeah.
as hungry as I was to try it, and like as appetizing as it was, I skipped it.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Good specific moments where you
Yeah,
noticed the urge, the temptation, and went with a healthful alternative.
I got that sog and just like chicken.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
All right, any final thoughts for our listeners before we wrap up?
Um, I think it's just important to be really intentional about any kind of change in your life. And I think if you want to be successful in behavioral changes or growth in general, learn how to be more intentional about everything you're doing. Like, I need to brush my teeth before I go to bed. I'm going to make sure I spend 10 seconds on this side, whatever. Back, like that's just a random example, but like, it's important to get online as much as possible if you want to change anything in your life. Meaning you need to be aware of what you're doing and why.
Nice, nice. Well, to our listeners, I hope that this was helpful. We look forward to sharing our continued journey on this. Please subscribe and like us on these podcast channels.
Yeah, he needs it. He needs it.
Yes,
His
yes.
ego is very fragile.
Yes, please like and subscribe. And a big thanks to Boulder Psychological Services again for sponsoring us. Here's our outro.
Therapy dudes, take away your stress.